we're already. Oh no, now
There we are. There we are.
It's so funny because when I did I did that webinar this week, I still had or the Grit Forum. I was still like, wait, are we live? Like I still had that same feeling because apparently that's become a habit now to say, wait,
Yes.
are we live? So.
Which, by the way, and I will say this publicly, for those who don't know, I was supposed to do the Grit Forum and I couldn't because my neuro crap flared up. Karen jumped into the gap and I've heard nothing but wonderful things. I was on a call this morning with Laura from Recollective. Just so complimentary. And so you rock and everybody knows it and they see it.
Thank you. I will never turn down a compliment. I will always say, thank you, graciously accept. But the reality is, I enjoyed interviewing. The commentaries, they were great. I loved every minute of those conversations because at my core, I love having conversations with people. So that is
no, you don't. What are you talking about? What?
Well, shall we say I love having some conversations with people.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Anyway, but my point is Nelson also really did a great job presenting the data that he lives and breathes.
He did.
And so I think it's, it was a great opportunity for him to kind of, speak. And also what I really appreciated about that was, and he had shared that he was going to say that in advance. And I said, I think it's great. But the idea that look, we put out these hypotheses. We really encourage people to do their own critical thinking and kind of wrangling of this data. And he enjoys and shared this. Let's discuss the findings. Yeah. Let's discuss what we're learning. Go ahead and contradict us. And I don't know, just make it like a living, breathing report. So I really liked that point of view that he brought to that conversation. So,
and for our audience, so Carly probably don't have this, but I'm going to copy a link and I'm going to send it Carly in our exchange so people can still register. My understanding is people can register to watch. This was our Grit Forum, going through all the results. Really great way to kind of condense and synthesize all of that. And Carly here, I'll pop it into our.
Yeah, because I did have somebody else say that or two other people actually, somewhere on LinkedIn say, wait, I missed it. And I'm like, oh, you can still watch it. So yeah, you can watch it on demand, get caught up. A bunch of really cool trends in there and things that we're tracking. So anyway,
great stuff. All right, and we're in our 2-week cadence now, and we were just talking before you guys got on here. Here's the trade-off we're learning is the news doesn't stop. There's a ton of stuff, but we don't have time to go through 2 weeks worth of links. So we're still trying to work this out, everybody, and the right way to do this, to have a condensed version of curated discussion, but just tell you there's a lot left on the cutting room floor.
And I think this is a great time for us to say, please give us feedback. Please email Lenny and I at theexchange@greenbook.org and say every other week is fine, you two, we can handle it, or we really like this every week. I think we might need some consumer or customer input, audience input before we make this decision, because there's pros and cons to a different cadence that we're dealing with. We will not be here next Friday because we will be with our respective families,
right.
Feeling all the gratitude that we have for their existence.
Yes. or shopping, whatever.
Or shopping. Yes. You know what? Black Friday. I know you'll be talking about Black Friday right now. We didn't even get to that in Black Friday trend. Yeah. I have a daughter who really likes to get out there, and I have had years when I have indulged her once she became old enough to be like, okay, fine, we'll go out at midnight. And those were some of the most tiring of my life.
Right there with you.
Yeah.
Right there with you. I like clicking the button.
Yeah, I like clicking the button. Exactly. So we will talk to you after the fact. Maybe we'll find out how this day, compared to years past is, what's the shopping trends as we kick into the holiday season when we get back. So anyway, but in advance, happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Yes. And we will not be here, but let's dive into the squished down version of stuff that we want to cover.
Down version. Yeah. So, some of these are in no particular order here, but I don't even, SAS acquired synthetic data specialist Hazy. So we're going to start with that one because synthetic data. I don't know how, when I kept looking at this, I was like, we really have to talk about this because, again, back to our horse. We're at the synthetic, like we're already here. Like, we might have been talking about it. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Here we are, right? Yes. Like it's a thing. So SAS acquired synthetic data specialist Hazy to bolster its AI applications and enhance synthetic data capabilities. So big provider making a move in that space.
Yeah, I mean, remember this, the hypothesis when SAS bought Qualtrics was to connect, all of their kind of enterprise level data, customer data to the CX data of Qualtrics, and AI didn't exist then. It probably would have made that a hell of a lot easier if it had happened then. But
well, this kind of AI, right? This kind of
right,
AI.
This type of AI, yes. So, but yes, they sit on a lot of data, not necessarily the type of data that we think about within the research space, but lots of data flows, and yes, building synthetic data profiles off of buyer behavior data, for instance, that's powered by SAS. Yes, absolutely. Why wouldn't they be doing that? So
it's going to enable better modeling, right? So better modeling of these synthetic people profiles, whatever they are. But if the modeling gets better, then that methodology becomes stronger and more credible, and less kind of compromise of integrity, which is really, if we get to data integrity, like this is going to be a very interesting space to watch. So
yep. I did have not to beat that horse too much, but it was just an interesting point in a conversation earlier this week, where somebody said we need to better term the synthetic sample, because that idea is that it's not necessarily based. Their perception was synthetic sample means it's not based on real individualized consumer data. I personally didn't see it that way, but it was a good thing to recognize. I would say that this is an example, of what SAS is doing is off of real data. So if we're calling out synthetic sample, fine. Maybe we just need to differentiate between synthetic sample that's based on just amassing general data, like through ChatGPT, versus purpose built off of real data, individual level data records.
Yeah, because there's something about the word lover in me is like rolling around the semantics right now. There's something about synthetic that if we think about like, oh, well, there's synthetic materials which are fake and manufactured to act like.
Right.
So I understand the connection and the use case, but also there is something else that we might need that makes it a little less fake and more based on a true story.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah. Our friends at Brox have been calling that shadow sample. Cool term. Not sure that I particularly,
which means brings you to darkness, and is it right?
right. It's like, oh, my shadow self.
No offense, to all y'all, but let's find the right word. So again, talk amongst yourselves. Find the right word. Send it to Lenny and I. Say this is the word. Let's change the word. So anyway, but cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we talk about Kantar,
I just think we should talk about the Kantar Media. That was actually both. I think we have one from either MR Web that we're sharing the link of, but it was also on Research Live, and making its way across the industry also. And I feel like this potential sale, right? And I think there's private equity. If you click on the link, private equity firms are showing interest in $1 billion deal here. I think it points to things that we all should be paying attention to, right?
Yes, and I mean, this was kind of positioned in the article as like a new thing for sale again. No, they've been for sale. What's more interesting to me is, one, private equity is flowing. Private equity money is flowing. They are showing a lot of interest in the space and large assets like Kantar Media, and specifically large data assets like Kantar Media. So that's where I kind of clued in, is that there's, if you own a data asset and that data asset can drive more value and be monetized in new ways, private equity money is looking at how to build new solutions off of that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just indicative of the trends overall in the industry. We just see it at the big guys first because, if you guys don't know this, like if you're trying to get money, it's easier to get $1 billion than to get $1 million. Literally. So
from your lips to God's ears. That's all.
I know. I was like, boy, I wish I could experience that. But
right, exactly. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, they're just looking at large enterprises. So we'll see more of that as we head into. There may be a couple deals squeak through before the end of the year. More likely, we'll see a lot of activity like this in Q1.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yep. All right, so like speaking of things like this, the changes which have to do with sales and acquisitions and all that other stuff. QuestionPro, valued partner, of course, just partnered with Thematic to offer their a customer feedbacks analytics platform with QuestionPro survey platform, right? So we've now got that same sort of thing that you and I were talking about for weeks now, which is a melding of the skill sets to be able to be more comprehensive. So hats off for that partnership, QuestionPro and Thematic.
Absolutely, and shout out to Vivek and his team. I mean, they've been doing this, building out this enterprise grade platform that does so many things for years. Quant and qual and all these different capabilities. So it's pretty cool to see that happening where they want to be the hub. Right?
Yeah. So cool. And specifically when it comes to customer feedback, which, segue into more customer feedback, customer experience, we kind of one of the articles that came up in the last 2 weeks was about InMoment launching the CX industry's first AI-powered journey insights tool. So, whether it's first, but what there's, we don't know, but what they're talking about is, what I found interesting, Lenny, is this integrated experience improvement, or XI solution. So now we have another X acronym in the mix.
Right.
So I was like, hold on, XI? I haven't heard of that yet. And maybe that's just them differentiating themselves about, what do we call experience management and what does Qualtrics own and blah, 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 all that stuff. But what was cool is their approach is journey specific, not pillar division, not channel, whatever you call that. It's not like customer service has this and marketing has this and blah 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 blah. It's based on the journey and where they are, where the customer actually is. So it actually makes some logical sense. It's about their journey, not our division of pillars across our industry. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of cool and a new way of looking at it. So kudos to that launch.
Yeah, I love that, taking the holistic view. That's fantastic. So go
ahead.
So our friends at Material Spotlight Agile Insights product, that's what's interesting is Material has always firmly been on kind of the strategy consultancy side of things. So this makes me think of back when McKinsey launched McKinsey Periscope many years ago. It's we have these companies that take kind of the larger, more strategic positioning and projects, and now continuing the trend of as different projects can become more efficient because technology, they don't want to lose that revenue, so they're kind of shifting their business to be able to capture potentially larger share of wallet, even though it's smaller revenue type of projects. By leveraging their tech. So very smart for them to do that. I think Ipsos has done it. All of these companies continue to kind of find a balance between full service strategy consulting and automation of kind of just lower, just easier things that lend themselves towards automation. So
one of the things I liked in this that if you click on the again, I'm pointing over to my other screen where I have stuff, but like if you click on the article over there, or on your own browser and you look at it, one of the things they talk about is recommendation first reporting that meets real-time sensitive business needs. And I love it when a phrase hits me, as we've discussed earlier today, but recommendation first reporting, I imagine that a lot of people have done things like that. Like, you speak to the objectives, or you meet the business questions first. But I really like this. I don't know. I just liked that language of recommendation first reporting, because boy, does that like just hone in on a different way of looking at a strategic report for a research initiative. Anyway, hats off to them. Maybe you may not be the only ones to say it, but you were the first ones to say it in that way, that it landed with me in this way. And I think that's kind of cool. And I would look into it for that specifically. Like, all right, you're giving me that consultative information first. Like, hey, yeah, we'll tell you what we did, but first we're going to tell you what to do, which I thought was pretty cool.
Good call out. Yeah. Yep. Very cool.
Yeah.
Talking about morning consult. It's almost no offense. These next couple ones kind of like, yeah, they're adding on AI.
Yeah. I know. And
I mean, no offense, guys.
But it's true, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's that you're waiting to see these companies like doing this morning consult, the morning consult AI, to help users unlock smarter, faster insights from their proprietary data. Morning consult sits on a ton of data. They do lots of brand tracking. They do political polling. They lots of stuff, and unlocking more value creation out of that. So I think more companies doing those type of things because it just makes sense.
Yeah, and this one also goes back to, I think they say specifically decision intelligence, but it's the idea that this is all of this work is AI is great, but it has to help us make more informed decisions at a high level in the organization. So that's what we need to be using it for. So like, where have we migrated with the use cases? It's like, okay, let's make some better decisions as a result of it. Like, we're using this as the tool to this AI programs and platforms and features to get to better, stronger, faster decision making, which I think is key. So decision intelligence, good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you found this
REVOLT. So we've had speakers from REVOLT. If you don't know REVOLT, they're a Black-owned kind of multimedia company, and they've unveiled something they've called Black Shift, which is an AI-powered research initiative. And so it can give you, with its agency, what's it called? The agency, 6 zeros. So 6 zeros is, helped them put forth this information about Gen Z's values, aspirations, behaviors. And it's all within this context of how Gen Z generationally is really making an impact on culture, right? And I think that is so interesting, because we know that we people of one generation will own our Generation X label at this moment. Like, it is a different culture. We had our own subculture at that age. So the concept that there's a subculture, a different culture at that age, is not new. We had our own subculture, right? We can talk about that time, and say, oh yes, we drove a lot of kind of influential cultural shifts, but that's what's happening with Gen Z. So this is a great place to go to tap into that generation and find out what's going on with that lens. So I'm really excited about that for them, and hats off to their agency for helping with that creative work.
Yep, absolutely. It just occurred to me, do we call ourselves the MTV generation, or what? I mean, just the 80s kids. We 80s kids coming of age in the 80s. Anyway.
I know. And we could wax nostalgic for back in the day. And I'm sure, again, like, it seems so old, but you think about the generation before us who had those thoughts about us also, like, just the boomers. Anyway, and we thought everything was so cool, and that's what they think now. Everything is so cool, and they're not wrong. Like, I absolutely appreciate.
Oh, let me be clear. I still think that everything that we did was cooler than anything happening now. Let me be clear about that.
I don't know about that.
The peak of coolness was in the 80s. I just, sorry, prove me wrong.
I don't know about that. Sometimes, anyway, sidebar. Sometimes I just think that, like, these things that I am shown by the generation that's peaking at the moment right now, I'm like, that's just cool. There's just cool stuff. It's cool that I don't know. It's
cool.
just cool. So
it was inspired by us. It was inspired.
Yeah, okay. I know you'd like some of that credit. I don't know. Because it feels to me creative. I think that the social media shorts and the kind of trends that go viral, that just feels really creative. That speaks to my soul, right? The memes speak to my soul. Carly, shout out to Carly. I had seen somebody else use a meme that Carly had shared like last year about something that was going on internally, and I just saw somebody else like republish it, and I was like, oh, that's our girl Carly, who found that meme first, or at least shared that meme first with us. Like, I just love the creativity, and I love that there's a whole world of let's create something to get this message across, or let's create something that can then go viral. I don't know. It's a creative generation, and I'm
it is. It's very cool.
I looked it up. Yeah, it's cool.
All right, well, let's talk about another
thing. Look, I think this is cool. Did you experiment with this at all? So what we're talking about is Perplexity introducing a shopper feature. So you can go into Perplexity. You can do it without being a pro user, but pro users have kind of an unlimited ability to do this, where you can research and purchase a product right from the platform. And you're going to, in the future, if you read this article, going to be able to like take a picture of something. Where can I get this? Put it in Perplexity. So it's Google search-ish, but it has this agent acting as, oh, I'm also gonna connect you. I'm gonna take what you're searching or what you're interested about. I'm gonna jump you a couple of steps ahead, and you can click to buy. Yep. So it's integrated the whole path to purchase. In a way that I think is really cool. So my experimentation was, gifts for something like gifts for a picky 20-year-old female or something. And then it's like, I'm like, oh, okay. And it wasn't just to an article that listed 10 gifts to buy for your picky 20-year-old daughter. It wasn't that. It was, here's some cool products for you. So it streamlined that whole shopping process. Anyway, and apparently they're going to bring out a new merchant program as well. So pay attention to that, because then those retailers are going to have access into that search trends, shopper trends. Yeah,
that path to purchase.
Cool stuff.
And point out, even though we don't have the link in it, right? The efforts to break up Google, the assumption that Google will always be the default search engine. Not necessarily, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are credible competitors emerging. Perplexity is certainly at the top of that list, and they keep doing stuff like this that goes through that revolutionizes that process. As researchers, we need to understand those things, because it has impact. I'm going to cough. I'm sorry, Karen. Talk about the next one.
You're good. You're good. Everybody, wait. So you're allowed to cough. You don't have to say I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, the thing about this, to the Google point, is, I think everybody we had this idea like Google's this monopoly, and this was all brought about because does Google have is Google a monopoly kind of thing? So that's why I think that ended up in that space and of even being investigated. But the reality is the natural progression of the capabilities in today's world. It's almost like it's going to solve itself, because I bet this is the first time Google is like, wait, what? I have threats. I mean, I think it's interesting. The parallel of those two things, I think, is very interesting, because they've haven't had anybody coming at them. It's not even been close. And now all of a sudden it's game changing for them. So interesting time to work at Google. I think we have some friends there, but interesting time.
Absolutely. So the cool stuff. All right. The Spotify's AI DJ. I thought this. Why don't you talk about this? Because I thought this was just right in your wheelhouse.
In my wheelhouse. So yeah. So and maybe you've played with it. And I feel like we've talked about it before. But this AI DJ, my husband actually just recently was like, I love my AI DJ at Spotify. But in the article, it talks about this guy saying like, I don't like it because he's like, I'm a writer. I think it's The Verve, right? So The Verge. And he's like, I'm a writer. I can't really have lyrics. So the AI doesn't really know the context of my listening, because during my workday, which might be the majority of my listening, he has to have a certain, ambient noise or, types of non-vocal music playing, but he certainly wants to jam out over the rest of the weekend, right? Not in so many words. So what I think is interesting is it talks about, from a qualitative research standpoint, the value that a human being would bring to the understanding of somebody's music listening is what comes to mind. If the AI asked him before just saying, hey, I'm your cool DJ and I'm going to pick music, maybe the questions are, if there was qualitative research, or even just a chatbot asking, do I have it right? Is this what you want today? Do you need a different kind of vibe today? Why is it that you listen to this music? My playlist is so ridiculous because my kids hijack my playlist all the time and play what they want. So it does not know me. Like, no matter how I slice it, it doesn't know who I am because my listening is largely other people telling me what to play. So anyway, so shouldn't it have a qualitative component to it, Spotify? That's the request.
Yep. Agreed. And well, it is interesting to think about that as we progress through this, of the level of nuance. And it goes back to that synthetic data, that, individualized, we're not far away from having our own synthetic persona agents that hopefully will have that type of nuance. And can be more predictive in those type of things. Oh, no, Lenny likes, singer-songwriters, but, blah, 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 right? Whatever that context can be. So it'll get better, but it's not perfect yet.
Karen likes singer-songwriters, but her kids are with her much of the time when she's having leisure time and can't listen to what she wants to listen to.
Right.
So
right. So,
all
right. That was really interesting. That Y Combinator, it's requests for startups. It's the ideas and categories they want to see people to go after. So take a look at it. What occurred to me was, well, one, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a bright idea to do this, Y Combinator wants to give you money. So there's that. But even more of, these guys are pretty darn good at predicting future trends from a enterprise standpoint. That is their job. Their job is to identify companies that are going to tap into markets and make a buttload of money. So when you look at this, think, okay, well, these are the types of markets and products and solutions that there is a need for. They will be emerging. They think this is going to be, worthy investments. Therefore, they will be things that impact our world. So it's a kind of an early indicator of thinking.
Well, I love the one on there that I think the first one's on robotics, and you and I have talked about that before, and I think you just talked about it recently on a webinar with somebody also. But one of them says using machine learning to simulate the physical world. And I thought, well, that is from an insights, market research industry point of view. I know that some of the beauty companies, for example, have these kind of real world simulation research things, like can you use a virtual product assessment tool, for example, where you're not actually applying the makeup, but you're using an augmented reality, like all of that technology. I started to think like, oh, we want to simulate the physical world from a research standpoint. That could be interesting. If you are in that space developing that, there could be some cool opportunities. So anyway, that was the one that jumped out at me. And of course I want to cure cancer. Like, please. Like, but they're not in our audience. I don't think those data scientists are in our audience. Maybe they are.
No. Well, and there was another one that was kind of a catch-all. I think it was like, automation of back-end business processes. We're living through that now, right? We talk about this every session, with the application of AI, but not just. So, which tells me we're still at the beginning of that curve, right? These guys still see investment opportunities to make big businesses that are doing those types of things. So, check it out. It's interesting. They don't always publish this. They are this year. And pretty compelling stuff. All right. I know we're near the top of our hour, but we made a promise that we would at least offer a perspective 2 weeks ago. Do you want to?
And I like this one. Out of all of the articles, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about polling. Notice it's at the end. We don't have a lot of time. We're not going too far into it, right? But this article, Mary Meehan, who is the author of this article. Forbes article that she published. She talks about this a lot. If you go to her LinkedIn, you can kind of, see some of the things about polling that she has published. And this article kind of discusses, and I invite everybody to use some critical thinking about this, the need for changes in election research methodologies. So without getting into the politics, Lenny, there's been a lot of conversations, but the question really is, and I think she poses it, can we finally say that polls are flawed and rethink how we seek to understand the voting public? And I'm like, I think we're there. I think most people are there.
100%.
And I think it's a really important piece for everybody in the insights industry to ponder, right? Because and I know that you're anxious to chime in too, so I don't mean to keep talking, but I think that the hesitation that I had a conversation with somebody else about is if we look under the hood at the polling methodologies, are we going to find flaws across all of insights? And we're afraid to have that conversation. We're afraid to say year after year after year, they get it wrong, but our research is credible. Right. So we don't want to talk about this, right? We don't want to do that.
Yep.
And yet, I think the points that Mary goes on to make, which I'll stop talking for a few minutes, but then come back to them. I think they're spot on that it is the polling is not holistic enough to really understand. And maybe that's what we've discovered. Anyway, your 2 cents.
No, that's so did a podcast interview yesterday with JD Deitch, which will be released soon. And I think it's a real banger of a interview. And we touch on this from the sample. That's what I've been zeroed in on, is that when we have these public examples of a miss, it's not about whether it's 2%, 3%. That's not the case, right? The issue is it was very apparent that we are not engaged with chunks of the population. And the example I always say is P&G doesn't care who you voted for, but they do care if you're going to buy their toilet paper. And if these are examples, if they show that there is a problem with our ability to reach and engage specific populations, doesn't matter why. Well, it does matter because we need to fix it. That's a problem. Because if we can't get to them for polling, we're not getting to them for commercial research. Guarantee you. And they can't understand what's driving their decision making from a commercial standpoint. So it's that's the lens, and Mary points that out as well. This is there is something flawed with our ability to engage the population effectively. So we can talk to them and understand them, regardless of the business use case. It doesn't matter whether it's about their voting habits or their buying habits.
I know
it's like, aren't getting to them.
It's like the say-do gap, which we talk about all the time.
Right.
And why do we think that doesn't apply, in other situations? Because the reality is people are complex and their decision-making is complex and their behaviors are complex. And she goes on to make a case for, understanding why voters feel the way they do. Then it's like, right, because we're not having qualitative conversations with them. We might have a very biased, kind of televised focus group, which is not a focus group.
No.
Right. We may have a conversation that's like, oh, we brought these 10 people in. Oh, please. Like it's just,
right. It's such BS. I know.
It's such BS. So but the reality is if we're not talking to people and understanding, I think like qualitative research being brought into some of the polling data that we have would probably help bring things to light in a much more holistic way. And I feel like shame on the pollsters for keeping it with that singular focus like that, because it does not help. It does not help anybody.
Well, it's the same problem that happened with sample, right? I mean, the pollsters, I'm old enough and worked in this that, we used to do Katie, right? Telephone, RDD, random digit dialing, right? And those, and that's still called the gold standard because it is really expensive, right? Back then, there's no other choice. So we have these economic concerns that have pushed there's been price compression, and the sacrifice has been quality. And not just quality because of fraud, et cetera, quality because the systems we have put in place to be able to engage with people goes to the easiest to engage.
Yeah.
And then we rely on, waiting or whatever to try and get to an answer. But our weights can't even be, aren't even right when we don't understand the drivers of change in specific populations. We can't just look at demographics, right? There's other stuff. So this is I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the industry to assess and realize, that maybe the emperor still has some clothes, but we're seeing some stuff we don't want to see, and we just need to deal with that. It's not it's not a value judgment. Nobody did this on purpose. It's not this, it's just
right.
It's an issue. We need to fix it so we can deliver value. And I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah. No, I knew there'd be a time when I could talk about it. And this article, like I said, I like an article that is that encourages, just going full circle to what we said in the beginning with Nelson's disclosure before the Grit Forum, is encouraging critical thinking, encouraging people to use their brains to mull over something, right? Like take the information that's here and say, okay, what does this mean for me personally as an insights professional? Like, do I agree with this statement? Does this statement, put me off? Do I agree with the premise that it's flawed? Or, do I want to defend it and say, no, it's not flawed? Like, okay. Like, I think that's what really we have to turn over in our own brains as insights professionals. So where do we stand on this? And
final shout out to, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, until the next time, do your thinking.
Yes. And I just want to give a shout out to Miriam Meehan, Metametrics. She's a wonderful person, been part of the Green Book family, events, et cetera, because she's just she's such a great thinker. I really appreciate you bringing this example of this. Here's just another example. Check her out if you haven't. A deep thinker in ways that we need more folks trying to help solve these problems. So
and writing about it and putting it out there. So making their opinions in this context, move the industry forward, which is what we're here to do. So
100%. All right, are we done?
I think we have to be. It's 36 minutes in and we went over.
We did the 2 weeks. We did a good job. We're still audience. We're still trying to work this out, as we said in the beginning.
And it'll be 2 weeks again, as we said. So we'll see December. We'll see you in December.
I know. Can you believe that? Not just December, like well into December.
I know. Well into December. And then we'll have that. Then we'll have, I think, another one. And then
we're done.
We're going to be in 2025 before you know it. So
it already feels that way. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.